So to begin, let's take a look at purpose. And on that purpose side, I want to offer you first, I think probably my favorite coaching question, leadership question, solution-focused question ever. I just call it the primary question. You probably use this a lot in your life, and it's simply as this: what do you want? What do you want? And I want you to take a moment here and think about answering either this question or the next question. The first question is the primary question. I call it the primary question because it's the first question you ever want to ask. When you think about when you started your business, you're probably thinking, oh, I should start a business. Okay, what kind of business do I want? That's the primary question. What's the vision that I want to create? Someone comes to you with a problem. We can focus on the problem. But it's also useful to start with the primary question. Okay, thanks for telling me about the problem. What do you want to have happen? We can focus a little on the problem, but the majority of our time should be focused on the solution that we actually want to create. So that's the first question. What do you want? The second question, and we're going to do an exercise here. I want you to do things, not just get things. When I actually apply this, is the miracle question. The miracle question allows us to get beyond any fear or limitations that we might have inside, which is if you woke up tomorrow and a miracle occurred in your life or your business was exactly the way that you wanted it, what would it look like? Similar to the primary question, but it's a little bit more magic wandish, and you don't even think about problems, really think about what you want. So let's take 90 seconds. I'm going to put a timer on here, 90 seconds, just to kind of brainstorm and get those mental muscles moving. And if you would, write it down and make a proclamation by please putting in the chat. I would love to get a sense, and that way I can bring in concepts and things in relation to what you're really focusing on as well. So 90 seconds on the clock. So what do you want? Or if you could wake up tomorrow and have everything exactly the way you want it, what would that look like? And Eric, just to clarify, I think I understand what you're saying, that your business is functioning without your daily presence. Is that correct? Awesome. Yeah, $50 million company running all by itself. Complete organization. Lenny, well done. A perfect org chart with the management team underneath me running day-to-day, solely focused on strategy. I love it. I'm hearing a lot on leverage, having a company that runs smoothly, as if I was there with steady growth. Fantastic. So leverage, delegation, developing your team. I'm hearing that these are the things that sounds like the primary focus right here. And so if you could have that, I imagine that that is going to give you other things such as freedom, flexibility, time, whatever it is that you're looking for that's important. So this really is a vehicle as well. That's the goal. And that's filling a vehicle to help you get some other values met along the way. Okay, cool. Thanks for those you shared. And from there, one more. Rich, $10 million company with amazing culture and team, healthy mind and body, having complete clarity in future. Specificity, Rich. Specificity is power. Thanks for bringing that in. That is awesome. So let's take a look at that. So we want leverage, we want freedom, we want empowerment of our team, we want systems and processes to help them run things smoothly without you having to be there micromanaging throughout the process. And also, Rich is bringing in, I want my whole life really dialed in, healthy mind, body, healthy business, and all of the things. So to help us with that, so if that's the direction we're going, then we want support from the mental. We want to be aligned on the emotional and also making sure that we're taking steps, action, and consistency towards that direction. So let's jump in then and take a look at the mindset side. So the mindset side is a couple things, right? So it's the empowering beliefs that we have, as well as dealing with handling the limiting beliefs that we have. Also, focus. I'm going to give you what I consider the 4 themes of excellence to help us with a couple of these concepts that we're talking about here going forward. The 4 themes, I consider the 4 themes of excellence. And the 4 themes of excellence are not techniques per se, but they're guardrails that keep you going on the path. They keep you from going into the ditch. There's only one way to stay on the path. There's many ways to get off the path and get stuck in the ditch. So to do that, I'm going to overview the 4 themes, then we're going to break these down and then we're gonna continue focusing on applying them going forward. So the 4 themes include this. Number 1, your focus determines your results. What you focus on becomes your reality. So the fact that you brought these visions into here, I want a $10 million company, I want a $50 million company. Now that becomes the focus. Then we have to look at the principle of ownership to help us to own what we can and delegate what we can, but still maintaining ownership of putting those systems in place. Performance equation, we'll talk about what that is, as well as experimentation, personalization, to make sure that we're doing it in a way that's in alignment with you and what works for your personality style going forward. To help us understand the power of our focus in our mind, I'll give you another quick exercise. Not quite as challenging as our first, frog into a horse type of thing with the numbers and all that. But this is how we experience reality. So this is something that, as we go into more depth on NLP, if you haven't seen this before, you'll see something that comes up like this called the results model. And it's how we create results. It's how we filter the experience from the world to produce results in our personal and professional lives. And the way it works is this. So if this is us, individuals, this is the head model, and we see events out there in the world. Could be anything. Could be market changes in the environment, interest rates for financing, increased competition, supply chain issues, all the things we talked about, receiving feedback from a customer, from an investor, from your spouse, from your employees, whatever, an objection if you're in a sales role, or you want to hire someone, but they don't want to because of this. Well, all of a sudden we perceive that. Well, how do we perceive that? We perceive that through one of 5 modalities or modes of thinking. The ones we really care about are the first 3, but we'll go over all 5. It's visual, auditory, so I can see it, I can hear it. Auditory, kinesthetic, is I can feel it. Olfactory or gustatory. Olfactory is smell and taste, respectively. Those 2 we don't really care about. The ones we mostly care about is how we perceive the world is usually through what we see, what we hear, and what we feel. When we're experiencing this, and I promise there's a relevancy here to going into this much depth on the psychology of perception, when we experience the world, we feel like we're seeing all of it, that we see it all. And that's okay. That's the only reason we feel that way is because we're only aware of what we're aware of. But there's lots of things we're not aware of. Like even right now, there are things in our environment that we're not aware of, we're not paying attention to, that we're ignoring for one of 3 reasons. So what they found in psychology is that any given moment, we have 2 million, it says in the slide here, BPS, bits per second of data coming at us. 2 million. In other words, 2 million data points coming at us, but we don't really get 2 million. We don't pay attention to 2 million. We only get 126 bits out of the 2 million. 126. So imagine, that you have 2 million channels of information coming at you, but your brain's only focusing on these 126, and we call this reality. So this is a good thing, though. This is a good thing, because if we recognize that, if we don't like what we see, there's almost 2 million other channels we can pay attention to find a more empowering reality, find a different path in order to get the results that we're looking at in terms of be, do, and have. So 2 million down to 126. That 126 then becomes our experience. It's our internal experience. Our experience is made up of 3 things: internal experience, our state, and our physiology. Our state is our emotional state. Our physiology is our body posture. How many of you feel better and more positive like after you have a really good workout? Raise your hand if you would. Feel better. Yeah, awesome. Because you're in a great physiology, right? You just lifted some weights, you just ran really hard, you got the endorphins pumping, you see the world differently, not because it's different, but because you're different. Your physiology is different, your emotional state is different. How many of you have been to a motivational training, and at the end of that training, you feel like you can throw the world? How many feel like really, like you feel like amazing? You listen to a podcast, it's amazing, you're like, man, we can do this. That's great. It's awesome to have that state. But after a couple weeks, if we don't reinforce that, we go back to our old patterns. So the key to creating long-term change in relation to not only money, which is kind of the focus we're talking about here, but anything in life, is not just changing our physiology. That's important for short term, but for long term, we want to change that internal representation. When you change that frog into a horse, when you expand your definition of what it's about, you see the world differently. and the world begins to change as well. Then from there, we take our behaviors and we can shift them. So we get market changes, we just adjust our approach. We get feedback, we change our behavior. Reframe an objection. We have different ways to handle it, which gives us more empowering reality. To give you an illustration of what this looks like, and this is also in some other trainings as well, I want to give you a quick experience of seeing reality. If you've ever seen on social media, sometimes they will have like a word jumble, and they'll be like on Facebook or LinkedIn, I'll say, hey, the first word you see is like a reflection of like your theme for the year. Well, I don't necessarily know if that's true, but I think it's fun to really pay attention to what are we seeing out there in the world. If there's 2 million different channels I can pay attention to, what am I focusing on and why? It can be illuminating as well. So as you look at this next slide here, if you would type in the chat, what do you see here? What's the first word that pops into your mind? The first one you notice. No right or wrong. We got last, got brain. Yep, I see brain's in there. Which is fun, Steve, because I didn't know last was in there. There's all kinds of words people share that I didn't even know was in there. People, power. Okay, that feels good. I like it. That's awesome. So what we see, old, that's cool, Ernie. I love it, old. Now that's really connected to me as I get older. This is our world. There's all kinds of things we pay attention to. We only focus on certain things. That's why it's important to pay attention to your numbers, because that you're pulling that information into your awareness so you can do something about it. So you could see any number of things. You could see people. Yep, someone said that. Lead, leader, team is in there. You can also see develop, empower, lead. That's our mission for our company. You can also see negative words. I mean, old may be a negative word. There's struggle in there, frustrated, fear, alone is in there. Or you can also see sentences. Your brain is awesome. So the world is kind of like this. It's kind of like this, that we see the world and we see patterns out there. It's not as much a reflection of the world as it is. It's a reflection of what's inside of us. So if you want to change how you view the world, you want to see things different, you want to see opportunities, begin to think in opportunities, ask questions, directing your mind to opportunities. Do workouts, put yourself in that positive state, change how you view the world, and the world around you will begin to change.